For a relatively new dealership, this is a fantastic turnout, a really fantastic turnout. My name is Paul. My last name is Van Reenen. It's a Dutch-German name. I'm an Afrikaner farmer from South Africa. For those of you that don't know where or what South Africa is, I'll tell you it's Afrika de Sol. And it's at the bottom tip of Africa. We moved out 5 years ago to start a lure company, and my bank manager called my wife one side and he said he's going to start a lure company in the backyard of Rapala and Yozuri and Mirror, and my wife said, if my husband said he's going to do it, yep, he's going to do it. So we moved out and we started our lure making. And I got to, before I even go further, I just want to say one thing. I travel all over the sort of southern United States, all the way up the East Coast. And the very one place where I feel the most welcome, where I really have the best friends, friends that are genuine, that you don't even have to see them for 6 months. The next time you see them, you just take off from where you left it. That's right here in the valley. So I want you guys to give yourselves a hand. You guys are wonderful people. And I've seen more patriotic people here, Hispanic people. I don't know what Hispanic people are coming from Africa. There we have all different colors of black people, and then some gringos, but now lots of Chinese. But the Hispanic people have been wonderful to us and very, very, very welcoming and really, really good fishermen, good guys, beautiful women, you know. So, but anyways, we came to the United States, and I've always known in my heart that this is the greatest country in the world. Somehow I always knew, even when I was at school, when I used to read the newspaper and I used to read, you know, Second World War history, I've always been interested in non-fiction. But whenever I read about the United States, I always knew the United States is a country born out of travail, you know. That's why it's the greatest country in the world. Most people that have come here through hardship and have really made something of themselves. It's the one country in the world where if you really put your shoulder to the wheel, you can be very successful in the United States. So I love the United States. We can't wait. We got our green cards just yesterday. So a green card is something that you know, it's not an easy thing to obtain, but typically when you get your green card after 4 years, you can apply for citizenship, which is what we're going to do. So my wife and I, we can't wait to say the Pledge of Allegiance and to drape the USA flag over our shoulders. We support Heroes on the Water as our charity at Unfair Lures. We feel very strongly about the veterans here. Who are all the veterans in here? Please put up your hands. Okay, thank you for your service. In South Africa, I was an Army Ranger medic, so I served too. And I know what it's like. Thank you very much for your service. We appreciate it very much. You guys are patriots. Everybody are patriots, but the guys that have served, you know, it was a choice you made. And thank you very much. Unfair Lures, just quickly, is a lure company that's just stepped out of the box somehow. You know, we've just kind of done a quantum leap on most of the other available baits on the market. Let me just quickly tell you what makes an unfair lure different from a regular lure. So there's guys that fish spooks and top dogs and skidder warps, etc., etc., etc. There's many, many different types of baits. But when you have to put a certain type of bait away where your sun's up a little bit and switch to something else, it means that you're fishing a generic bait. When you as adults, most of us are adults in here, are not sure about what you're going to eat. There's food in front of you, you're not sure what it is. Do you go like this? Or do you just pick the bowl up and start sucking it down? What do you do?
Taste.
Now remember something. When we go fish, there's nothing wrong with catching a dink trout or a dink redfish. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a fish. But most of us want to try and beat our personal bests. And that's like when you guys go hunting for your bucks and whatever, you know, whatever antelope you're hunting. It's nice to get a 10-point buck or a 12 or whatever. How do you catch a bigger fish? You got to fool him with something that he doesn't know. You got to get ahead of the game a little bit. So typically, if you fish a generic bait, that kind of sort of looks nice bait in a packet. When you pull that thing past a bigger trout or a bigger redfish or a snook or something like that, remember that trout has eaten many mullet through his life. Many mullet. So when you pull a generic bait past him like that, there's two things that fish does. One is he's a careful fish. Would you agree with me that a trophy fish is a smart fish? It's a careful fish. We don't just eat anything. You inspect your food first. So that big trout looks at his food, or with his lateral lines. You know, it's something that not many fishermen know, but if you understand this principle, it'll put your fishing into the next zip code. 50% of the year, a fish can't see. Well, dark 50% of the year at night. So half of the year, typically, there's no light for a fish to actually be able to see. And then through the course of a year, with wind and flood and stuff like that, you get water that's so dirty that the visibility might be like this. So that fish is not really seeing much anyway. So let's agree that 70% of the year, fish is not hunting by sight. Can we agree on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how's that fish hunting?
Feel, vibration.
You know that his body is an upside down GPS system. So a normal GPS in your car is a mechanical device that reads satellites all over the place. A fish's lateral line, all the way down his lateral line, he's got little nodes. And he triangulates like a crocodile or an alligator. A croc, I come from Africa, so like I said, a crocodile will come probably 20 to 30 yards away from any kind of antelope. I've seen it many times. They'll come up and they'll look at an antelope, they'll look carefully, and they'll go under the water, and they'll come up on its snout. They triangulate that distance, and what a fish does too is he listens with all these little nodes on the side of his body, and he triangulates his prey. He's listening for something that he knows. So where does a mullet swim? Right on the top, a couple of inches of the water. That's why they make those little ripples on the water. So that fish, when he hears, or when mullets swim by, they triangulate and they know what that sonic pulse is. Everything that moves in the water makes a sonic signature. Everything. Everything makes a push in the water. So a trout or a redfish or a snook or whatever learns to know what that mullet push sounds like. So if you fish a bait that's exactly like a mullet, molded like a mullet, you're fishing a live bait except it doesn't have a heartbeat. And the same with a shrimp, you see. So if you see, there's a million different types of shrimp on the market. The unfair lure shrimp is a patented shrimp. It's the only one that goes backwards. Most companies will give you a line attachment on the nose, which is fine. But then you should actually retrieve that shrimp like 1/16 of an inch at a time, because that's how a shrimp feeds. It feeds very slowly. But the part that you eat in the restaurant is what he uses to get out of trouble with. So the unfair lure shrimp, when you pitch it out, it'll dive away from you. The moment that you pop the rod tip, the shrimp will actually go to the surface and back up and go backwards. Now the key part about the unfair lure shrimp is that it's molded from a living shrimp. So the sonic signature, when it moves in the water, it's identical to a live shrimp. And the movement is identical. You see, when a fish, when he can see, like let's say cleaner waters like we have in Florida, we have gin clear water in Crystal River. I mean, you can see 20 feet in it if you dive. So when a redfish or a trout or a snook comes up to a shrimp, that fish knows which way that shrimp is going to go in a hurry. That fish knows. So when you pop your rod and it goes backwards and it comes to the surface and it skips on the surface, the ultra realism of the bait adds to the illusion. In other words, I see redfish sometimes, the redfish are notoriously poor at catching things on the surface. Sometimes, often you hook them on the outside of the head. But I've seen them chase an unfair lure shrimp 20 yards, boom, boom, and you just drop it a little bit and then you get it. But they chase it far because it's so realistic they think they're chasing the real thing. So that's what we're about. You know, unfair lures is about creating baits that are not BS. You know, there's so much BS on the market. I can remember before I moved here, I had boxes of lures, a box of something, and a box of I'm not sure, and a box of was good last month, and a box of just in case. You know, I'd rather go fishing and I'd look like one of the fine ladies going away for a weekend. 10 suitcases. Okay. So nowadays, the cool part about fishing nowadays is I only fish unfeathers. I don't fish with anything else. I fish with a fanny pack. That's all I need. When I climb off a guy's boat or climb on a guy's boat and I know what we're going to do, I have a fanny pack on my side. I have 10 or 12 baits in there, and I know I'm going to eat tonight. That's when I decide to kill fish. I know. Okay. Case in point with the effectivity of unfeathers, etc. is I fished recently with some of the most well-known guide in Corpus Christi. Charges $800 a day, take it or leave it. Full G Loomis staff member. And at the end of day one, he turned to one of his buddies who he's been fishing with for many years, also a tournament friend of his, and he said, like, what the F? You know, this guy fishing in my own backyard next to me, and he's drilling me like 5 to 1. I fished on Thursday with a friend, and I drilled him 9 to 1. And it's just how you present the baits and what you're actually fishing. You see, especially in a pressurized fishery, if you're fishing accurate baits, you're always going to come on. You're always going to come on with a goodies. So we do some radical things on unfed lures. I realized because of the pressure on the fishery here in the United States, a lot of people that fish, and there are only so many fish. Trouts are only found so many miles from shore and or inshore. It's an inshore species. You wouldn't expect to find a trout 20 miles offshore. But you can find redfish in big schools way offshore, you know, transversing the Gulf, etc., etc. But a couple of years back, on one of my baits, I caught a 50-pound redfish in the Sebastian Inlet on a topwater. It's 50 pounds on a boat. And when I landed the fish, it was stone dead. You know how you know a fish is stone dead when its pupil is centered in the middle of its eye. Most times when you take a picture of a fish, I can look at a fish picture like that and I know if that fish is dead or alive. You can see just like that. So, and I found the problem why I'd actually killed that fish is one of the hooks was over his gill rackets. And as that fish was fighting like that, that hook was sliding up and down his gill racket. Just over his gill racket, but sliding up and down the gill racket. With the inside barb hook, what I'd actually done is I'd sliced off a whole row of filaments. That fish bled out in the water, bled out completely. So I looked at this lot and I said to myself, you know, there's no point in killing a fish that you can't keep, and there's so much pressure on the fishery. We can't be killing full stringers of fish all the time. You just can't do it. I'm telling you now, you just can't do it. It looks good over your shoulder when you've got a full stringer of fish, etc. But you're going to pay somewhere. Trust me. In my home country of South Africa, we've got a wonderful fishery. I've caught 591 different species of fish and just over 400 there. But in the last 20 years, with no regulations, etc., etc., the fishery now is almost non-existent. The inshore fishery now the folks are catching tropical reef fish, killing them and eating them. Tropical reef fish, that's what they've got to catch and kill now. So it's something that you need to be a custodian of. To some guys it doesn't sound nice. I mean, you travel 100 miles, you want to bring back 500 pounds of fish. I understand the whole principle. But getting back to killing fish,